intelligence gathering, we are on the takeoff. You're right. We still yet to see like a vertical economic takeoff happen right now.
Yeah, or maybe just what I'm imagining to be, or what my imagination is a little too off. Maybe, I don't know. But in terms of a final question before we, I think, move to safety is in terms of the use case, right? Earlier we spoke about how OpenAI was mostly focused on image generation or consumer products of that sort. In terms of the use cases, again, sorry, alluding back to Anthropic, which focused on business, where do the use cases stop? Is it the popular narrative is, again, depending on who you ask, it is going to eat everything, every use case. Do you think that's going to be true, or do you think there's going to be, again, if I can maybe put a limit of, let's say, in the next 20 years, right, or in the next decade?
That's a long time. It's like 40 years.
That's what I'm saying, right? Like, I mean, if it's a decade or 20 years, are we going to see even the physical robots doing a lot of manual work as well? Where is the limit to the use cases?
Or from a very first principles thing, the only two inputs you need to solve any problem in the world and any like in the universe, in fact, is just like intelligence and energy. If you have both on tap, if you have very like abundant supply of both intelligence and energy, ideally there should be no problem that you cannot solve. But having said that, there are lots of real world constraints that come up that make it harder to essentially go achieve runaway economic growth or runaway this thing.
Can you flesh that energy and intelligence? Like, why is that true? Like, why if we have energy and like, why does every problem become solvable?
So you take any problem, right? Let's say, what's a good example? Let's say,
Raghav.
Sorry, I'm trying to think of an example. Let's say if you want to, I'm trying to think of something very trivial. Let's say you want to build a company, for example. It's not trivial. But let's say even if you want to make cars, yeah, for sure. Yeah, okay. You want to make cars, right? And you want to make cars. So now essentially you figure out, if you lay out the supply chain, right? Like you have to go figure out how to get the metal for your batteries, or you have to go figure out how to like design electronics for your batteries, or all of those things. Essentially, if you start tracing them, like what is bottlenecking my battery supply? Like why can't I make 100 million cars today, right? Like the only thing that's bottlenecking all of them is essentially either I don't know how to do it right now, which requires more intelligence, time, and figuring out like going down the tech tree and figuring out how can I mine more efficiently, how can I go mine like asteroids, how can I go get that supply chain to me, or it's also like bottlenecked by energy, right? For example, I cannot harvest enough energy to go do it, which you can argue is also bottlenecked by intelligence in some sense, but essentially you need to be able to harvest that energy to go build anything that you want to do. So any problem that you look at inside, like let's say the supply chain, or inside like building something, or let's say going to space, it all essentially boils down to like you can keep drawing that like, oh, the final bottleneck here is either energy or intelligence. And if you have both in abundant supply, you can just push through a lot of the tech tree very, very quickly and like get like runaway economic growth, or get like any problem solved that you want to set your like sights to. So those two being the only two fundamental inputs in any problem seems to be the case, because you can just take any problem and keep breaking it down till you get energy or intelligence, and those are the final things that essentially you need. Like, oh, I'm bottlenecked by like this thing only because I don't have either enough energy to go like manufacture this, or I'm not smart enough to go figure out how to do this right now. But give me enough time, give me like 10,000 Einstein years, and I'll be able to figure this out.
Okay. And so does this mean that, is that the reasoning for all problems will be solved via...
In theory, like they can be solved. Now the question is that why doesn't that happen? Like why, like the other bottlenecks that come up, for example, like they're like, in the next decade, for example, I don't expect us to build space probes and go out into the sunset, like exploring humanity, etc. Because there are like other bottlenecks that come up, right? Like one might not be able to like get enough human coordination right in time, right? Like that is just like a random feature of humanity living in society, etc. There could be other bottlenecks such as like political will. For example, that doesn't get, there could be like people are just too slow to adapt or like improve on this technology, and like they don't actually grok what this technology can do. So there can be other bottlenecks that come up that stop us from like government regulation, like that stop us from going and like, and that it sounds to be like our government regulation. It could be like years before we like solve government regulation to like go get that. It could be
if ever, I don't know.
If ever, yeah. Like they could just ban something like this, right? So they're like practically speaking, there are like other bottlenecks that can come up. Right now, sitting here, what is stopping us from getting 10% GDP growth, worldwide GDP growth? Like there are lots of like currently it seems like if you just pumped energy right now into the system, just like made energy 10x cheaper, there would be like a lot more economic growth. But then some other bottlenecks would then show up that we have to either figure out how to solve, or we just get